Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Morning Brews. My name, of course, is Ryan Smeltz, and today we're going to be talking about education versus experience. So, if you've been listening to the show or watching the show for some time, you've heard me talk about this before. And I want to go over it today again, primarily taking a look at the 3 bullet points you see in the show notes. What is their work history? What is their degree in? And which is better? So I believe that with everything going on in the world today and the push for entrepreneurship, as well as towards the trades, that education is more and more frowned upon. However, I want to take a look at it from a perspective of the advantages to each one, especially when it comes to hiring your workforce. So, what is their work history? I think it's super important to take this into consideration because, number one, just because someone's resume doesn't say it doesn't mean it didn't happen. And what I mean by that is some people are taught to only put the last 5 jobs on their resume, or they're taught to only put the last 10 years of work history on their resume. So if they've had more than 5 jobs, or if they have more than 10 years of experience, it's possible there is something that they have experience in which is not listed. And that's where the in-person interview and the conversation is really important. That does not mean they are intentionally trying to hide uh, jobs or work history from you. One example I will give you is I have about a year and a half experience in sales for a company that no longer exists. So if my work history does not extend out that far on my resume, it is possible I will not put that job down on my resume because there is not a company or people who work for that company that they're able to call. So they really can't get any employment confirmation or references. The only references they could possibly get from that company are the people who I know personally, which would be more personal references anyways. But I would take that into consideration when you're talking to someone. A good way of knowing, I guess you could say, what their age is by their high school and or college graduation date. If they list their high school graduation date on their resume or on their application, then you can kind of figure out their age from that. And so if it appears that they have been in the workforce for 15, 20, 30 years, and you're only seeing 10 years of work experience, then hold that conversation with them because it's very possible that maybe they've had 2 or 3 jobs and uh, one of those was 11 years. So they only list one job because it covers that 10 years of work history. So definitely talking to them, finding out what positions they've held in other jobs, taking into consideration the fact that maybe they're looking for a position at your company because it's in the same industry, but they were seeking that position at their previous employer, and their previous employer told them no for one reason or another. So it's really important to figure out, number one, does their experience in that industry at the previous position kind of meet your criteria? Does it tell you that they may know what they're talking about? They may even have more experience than some of the other candidates. It's just they pursued some sort of promotion or advancement with their previous employer, and they weren't able to get that position because maybe their previous employer felt that they weren't experienced enough, and their definition of experience for that position is a little bit different. So one specific example I will give you is maybe moving from sales to sales manager, maybe moving from a sales manager position into an operations position. These are all opportunities that someone could get inside of an organization. And like I said, maybe they were stonewalled. Maybe the people in those positions at the previous job weren't going anywhere. And so they saw their opportunity at another organization and they're chasing after what they want. So, if say it's a sales company and they were going from a sales role into a sales manager role, they came to your company, applied for the sales manager position, and they've got 5 or 10 years worth of experience in sales, then maybe they're ready for a sales manager role and that just wasn't available at their last job, or maybe there was someone in the middle there that kind of stopped them from being able to take on that promotion. So taking their work history and their previous experience into consideration is definitely important. And that brings us on to the education aspect. So one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone discounts education overall. You do not need an education in order to open and run your own business. You do not need a formal education in order to get into the trades. However, all the smartest, most successful people hire smarter, more educated people. So if you take a look at people such as Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Henry Ford, Warren Buffett, they are hiring people with extremely high levels of education, as well as from these Ivy League schools, because when it comes to Elon Musk going to Mars and Jeff Bezos with Blue Origin, they need people who are smart enough to build and create rockets and make them work and do it successfully. They need people who are able to take their ideas and bring them to life. And the truth is, a formal education is going to help with that. But the same applies in whatever industry you are in. Maybe you, for example, run a plumbing company. You do not have to have a college degree to be able to do plumbing. However, I'm pretty sure you would want the person who does your payroll or your books to be educated, maybe even certified. So you wouldn't want to hire some hack out of high school to manage your books, especially when it comes to the IRS possibly knocking on your door. You would want to make sure they're done correctly. So whether that's something that you outsource, you're still hiring someone, or you do it in-house and you hold a formal interview, you're probably going to want someone with a minimum of a 4-year bachelor's degree in the field. Depending on how much you're offering to pay, you might want them to have some experience as well. I know for most people, when they first start out in business, they will hire a CPA that is not on staff. So they'll hire some sort of bookkeeping company or tax professional to do all that stuff. And once again, you may not need to dig into the person's education, but I guarantee you they have some sort of formal education. So the point in saying all of this is that a formal education not only serves a purpose, but oftentimes the people who do not have the 4-year college degree, the master's degree, the PhD, are the ones that are hiring people who do have those, because outside of just being education, it also serves as credentialing. And for me personally, if I'm hiring someone with a college degree, that right there tells me that they have the loyalty, the patience, and the dedication to finish something over a long period of time. 4 years is not the blink of an eye. So if they sit down and they say, I'm going to get a college degree, and they spend 4 years working on it, pushing towards it, and then accomplish that degree, then I know if I bring them onto my organization and I say, here's where we are right now, here's where we want to be in 4 years, then as long as I can line up the company goals with their personal goals, their individual goals, and make it appealing to them, and help facilitate them accomplishing whatever they want to accomplish, then they're likely to stick it out, as is evidence of their 4-year college degree or whatever college degree that they have. I worked in sales with a guy that had a PhD in physics. So I will tell you right now that uh, he knows this. He is not a social learner, or I guess some people might call it socially awkward. But I will tell you, number one, he was not a quitter. And number two, he was almost better at learning and implementing the sales system because it was very systematic to him. It was here's what you do and say in this order, and kind of a decision path. If they say this, then you say this. If they say this, then you say this. And he was really good at it. So once he understood what to say when people throw him objections or curveballs, he was really good at just bringing it up and saying what he was supposed to say. A lot better sometimes than people who had no education, because they, number one, maybe lacked the student mentality, and number two, maybe they wanted to kind of do things their way, or they didn't have the patience or the loyalty to kind of stick to something for a long period of time. They wanted more instant results. So, that's just one example where, I brought it up a second ago, student mentality. If I'm interviewing someone, if it shows that they have some college and it has been some time since they've been in college, then it kind of shows that they went at it and then they just kind of gave up. To me, it doesn't really matter if it was for money, location, maybe huge life changes. Maybe they had a kid, maybe they got married and they felt they no longer needed to go to school, but it just kind of shows a lapse where they gave up in the middle of something. So they're going to lack that student mentality, that learning mentality. And the truth is, all of us that run a business, we want to make sure when we bring someone on, we hire someone that they have somewhat of a student mentality, so we can teach them what they're supposed to learn in order to do the job. So number three, which is better, in education or experience? Ideally, you're going to get both. However, once again, I kind of laid it out there, the advantages and disadvantages to getting someone with an education versus someone with experience. Right now, I have people who work for me who have 4-year college degrees, including myself, and I have a guy who's got 30, 40 plus years of real life work experience without so much as a high school diploma. And he's probably one of my hardest workers. So in the end, I believe they both have their advantages. I believe it's something you should definitely take into consideration. I personally would never turn down someone who doesn't have a formal education. I just believe that if you're not going to have a formal education, then I kind of want to make sure you have some sort of work experience to fill that gap. Excuse me. So that is what I have for you today, experience versus education. Hopefully this is valuable to you. Hopefully you learned something or got a different perspective you can apply to your business. If you did, leave us a 5-star review. It helps get it to the top. Coming up soon, we have an interview with Nick out of Florida, who runs a security company. So stay tuned in for that. Should be coming up on Monday, I believe, around 11 a.m. is when the Business and Brews show normally airs. You can find that wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to subscribe, and most importantly, tell your friends to subscribe as well. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and I will see you on tomorrow's episode of Morning Brews.